family. But what Mykelti Brown Padron and the rest of the Brown children uncovered is that this wasn't just a salary, it was a signal, the most evident and complicit evidence that the pretense of unity had broken. America has watched the Brown family on TLC's Sister Wives for over a decade, and we thought we were witnessing an ambitious family, religious, and financial test. We were assured that in spite of the complicated logistics and raw feelings, the Browns were one cohesive unit. Their vast family pot, shared budget, and co-parent system had made it look as if polygamy, at least for them, wasn't just working but thriving. The lavish cul-de-sac of Las Vegas houses, the staged family vacations, the growing property empire. These were all concrete manifestations of this fantasy. But suppose that fantasy had been constructed with great care to hide an acrid reality. What if the Browns were not financially together at all, but rather dwelling in the fantasy of joint wealth, while one man, Kody Brown, exercised total control? The $80,000 nanny salary was not a single episode of extravagance. It was the key that would dismantle the Browns' economic myth. The so-called nest egg was not keeping the family safe. It was quietly suffocating them. Behind every staged picture of bliss was a set of unspoken sacrifice. Wives making ends meet, children sleeping in shifts, as Kody lived lavishly, supporting one wife in lifestyle while the others subsisted. And yet, the cameras kept rolling, capturing only edited fragments of the truth, as audiences were left not to know that the same system the Browns were praising was essentially starving, emotionally, spiritually, and yes, financially. The story you thought you knew is about to unravel piece by piece. We all remember when the internet blew up in outrage over one figure, $80,000 a year. On a nanny at first glance, it seemed disproportionate, maybe even tin-eared. But suppose that shocking pay wasn't all about childcare. Suppose instead it symbolized something much more calculated, a warning of Kody Brown's reconfigured loyalty, his family's further stratification now that it was broken, and the breakdown of all sister wives ever stood for. As Mykelti Brown Padron puts it, that check wasn't just a check, it was a loud message to all the other wife and child. Robyn is the priority now. While Christine was raising 6 kids on no fraction of that economic aid, while Janelle lived in an RV in order to make ends meet, and Mary was denied aid for her B&B, Robyn had a full-time nanny, better compensated than many Americans are paid in a year, to watch over fewer children in the most secure, best-funded household. This was not about help. It was about privilege. Kody turning institutionalization of favoritism we all had, but now had in hard figure. Worse, it was not even the salary. The nanny came with expense, benefit, travel, security, pandemic protocols, and unlimited availability, while other children barely got to see their dad, let alone a paid position of care. The optics were bad, but the reality was worse. This was not a family getting by on their combined resources. This was a man siphoning resources away from a communal bucket into a personal kingdom. And as the Browns fell into housing instability, courtroom squabbles, and shattered emotional bonds, the one person guaranteed a paycheck and insulated tranquility was not a wife, not a child, but an employee who was hired to maintain the facade of harmony in a household already labeled royal. That $80,000 was not a salary. It was the price of silence, the compliance fee, and the bill for a future to come that the rest of the family was being left out of. We had assumed over the years that the Brown family's finances were based on an odd, near-utopian concept, a collective pot, where all of their money, especially the profits from their lucrative reality show, went into a fund and was distributed according to the needs of the entire family. It was the essence of their public image as a unit. 4 wives, 18 children, one shared mission. We witnessed them bargain over budget, fret about mortgage, talk about economizing and giving up for the family. But what Mykelti Brown Padron discovered, and what no TLC camera ever even approached filming, is that this supposed communal pot was in fact a highly hyped lie. Behind the scenes, all the money that the wives and even the kids made on the show went straight into the bank of one corporate entity, Kody Brown Family Entertainment, LLC. It sounds legit, it sounds organized, but in fact, what is happening is much more heinous. Mykelti documents that just one person owned that LLC, Kody himself. Not Christine, not Janelle, not Mary, not Robyn. Even though the women were on television, exposed their lives to the public, shouldered the emotional labor of their homes, and raised dozens of children, they were, legally and economically, just employees. They had no say in how the money was spent, no oversight over where it was going, and no ability to utilize it without Kody's permission. Need gas money? Ask Kody. Want to send a child to college? Get approval from Kody. Looking to buy a house to escape emotional abuse? Better pray the boss will approve. This was not a family business. It was a dictatorship in a democratic facade. And while Kody justified his control by explaining it was an issue of leadership and responsibility, the reality was that he used the LLC as his own personal ATM. Mykelti confided the very first substantial TLC paycheck, perhaps the make or break point for each child's financial future, wasn't used to cover bills or invest in savings account. No, it was used to buy Kody a Lexus convertible. The first reward of their combined effort wasn't invested in their combined future. It was incinerated on the face of one man, and voila, the family pot myth was busted. The Browns weren't a team. They were an unpaid cast with one executive producer, and his name was Kody Brown. At this point, the pattern should be clear. Kody Brown did not merely possess the family's money, though he certainly did that, so much as he weaponized what was presented to audiences at first as a type of moral responsibility. A man shepherding the heavy load of a huge plural family was actually a tightly constructed apparatus of emotional domination and control maintained through economic leverage. Mykelti Brown patrons' discoveries are daunting not just for what they say about the family's mishandling of funds, but for what they have to say about how money has been used as a reward and penalty. Want your kids to be nurtured, your needs met, your home safeguarded, then stay loyal to the system. Don't question, don't oppose, don't desire independence because they were cut off, denied access to funds they had helped earn, refused financial help when the need was greatest. Christine was denied a down payment on a home to bring up her children in Utah, while Robyn was granted an upscale custom-built home in Flagstaff. Janelle, whose money had carried the majority of the family burden for years, was living in an RV in Coyote Pass because Kody had denied her loan request for a home, despite the LLC covering family resources. And meanwhile, any discussion of building something separate, like Mary's proposal for a B&B, was discouraged. Not that the ventures were not foolish, but because independence meant escape. It meant one less individual in Kody's grasp. Each dollar was a weapon of coercion. Help those who play ball, shun those who do not. This was not sound fiscal management. It was emotional black. And when that hold first started to weaken, when wives began leaving, children began to speak out. Kody did not reflect. He lashed out. He employed the show as a platform through which to attack his own family, to cast himself as the wronged patriarch, and to vilify those who dared seek freedom as selfish, unfaithful, or ungrateful. The real betrayal, however, was not on the part of the wives. It was from the keeper of the keys to the kingdom, only to close the door in their face when they asked to be treated as equal. At first glance, $80,000 for a nanny had all the trappings of just another over-top headline in the long, winding drama of the Brown family. But what Mykelti Brown Padron and the rest of the Brown children uncovered is that this wasn't just a salary. It was a signal, the most evident and complicit evidence that the pretense of unity had broken. This amount, brazen and shocking, was the point when the veil was pulled and the question arose, how can a family living in poverty make it a point to spend that? Why would Robyn need a nanny if she has older children and no external employment? And above all, why was this nanny given more frequent presence, stability, and focus in the Brown household than a few of Kody's own? The reason, it appears, is heartbreak. The $80 K wasn't for the nanny. It was for altering the power structure in the Brown family. Kody had stopped being a plural husband and started living as a selective patriarch, investing all time, money, allegiance into one wife and one house, starving the others secretly of confirmation. That nanny became a mirror, reflecting each of the broken promises back onto the family. She was paid while Christine was forbidden. She was welcomed while Janelle was in agony. She was protected while truly slept alone in a room that had no blind, no comfort. The women individually discovered what the viewers only finally understood. This wasn't a kingdom shared. It was Kody's kingdom, and they were servants at his behest. Christine left. Janelle left. Mary was emotionally ghosted. The children began to speak out. And the show, which had previously been a tool of exposure, became an emotional war machine controlled by Kody, setting the public narrative as genuine relationships in real life collapsed out of sight. The $80,000 nanny earnings were not the beginning of the meltdown. It was the receipt, the tangible evidence that the meltdown had already happened, and no one even bothered to inform the audience. Now that we're consumers, we're left not only questioning the show, but ourselves. How long did we believe the illusion? How much did we ignore the sign? Because the building was familiar, the soap opera alluring. The kingdom is in shambles. The emperor has no clothes. And the only ones telling the truth now are not the heroes of the show, but the children who experience. The future of the Brown clan, if at all, will not be built on Coyote Pass, but in the shadows of a broken empire, trying to heal from the very spotlight that once made them stars.